Good morning. I'm Senator Kushner, and we're going to convene now the Labor and Public Employees Committee meeting, the 28th of January. And I will start with remarks by the chairs, and my remarks will be very brief. Just glad that we're all here today and looking forward to a productive meeting. And I know my co-chair, Representative Sanchez, will be here a little later this morning due to some family health issues, which we always put first. We know that comes first. But I will ask if my co-chairs, my ranking members, see, I give you guys all kinds of power. I'm very willing to share power in terms of when you make remarks. I did limit that a little. Senator Sampson, would you like to make any remarks? Nope. Representative Weir.
Just like to point out that Representative Mastrofrancesco is bouncing between committee meetings, as I know it happens with a lot of us. So I know she'll be making an appearance as well. But
there are a number of committee meetings this morning, and because we're going into session this afternoon, we will be keeping votes open until either 1 o'clock, or if the Senate convenes earlier than that, obviously we cannot keep votes open after either chamber convenes. So we'll be keeping a close watch on that, but hopefully that won't be a problem for anyone. With that, I would like to start with item number 3, concepts to be raised, and we'll go through each one of these and take any questions or comments that people might have. The first item on the agenda is an act concerning youth employment and training funds. Is there a motion?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions? Representative Weir.
yes, Madam Chair, can you give, I appreciate the title here. I know we went through this briefly in screening the other day, but can you just give a background as to where some of these came from? What background on the bill itself, what we'll be discussing today?
Well, if you want to give me a moment, I will pull out my list of bills. And I should have anticipated that, so I apologize, but I'll have to pause the meeting for a moment. Okay, back on the record. To your question, this bill is a Department of Labor agency bill. And what it will do is update percentages in statute. So we're no longer set at percentages, but allowing the Department of Labor Commissioner to set the amounts of percentages of training funds that go to different regional workforce boards based on U.S. Department of Labor data as to how many youth, how much is needed in each district in terms of the actual data that we have.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I'm assuming we're going to have a roll call vote on all items. Okay, so Mr. Clerk, will you call the roll?
A roll call vote has been requested and a motion duly made and seconded on agenda item 1, an act concerning youth employment and training funds. This is a motion to raise this as a concept. Senator Kushner,
Yes.
Representative Sanchez, Senator Cabrera, Representative Wilson,
Yes.
Senator Sampson,
Sampson is yes.
Representative Weir,
Weir is yes.
Representative Hall, Representative Hughes, Senator Lesser, Representative Canino,
Yes.
Representative Gauthier,
Yes.
Representative Master Francesco, Representative Shake. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And as I mentioned, the votes will be held open. Item number 2 on the agenda, an act concerning the Labor Department's recommendations for minor revisions to labor statutes. Again, this is an agency bill, and it will involve minor revisions. Any questions or comments? Oh, yes. Thank you, Representative Wilson. It's been moved by Representative Wilson. Is there a second? There's a second. Comments or questions? Seeing none, then I would ask for a roll call vote.
A roll call vote has been requested and a motion duly made and seconded on agenda item 2, an act concerning the Labor Department's recommendations for minor revisions to labor statutes. This is a motion to raise this as a concept. Senator Kushner,
Yes.
Representative Sanchez, Senator Cabrera, Representative Wilson,
Yes.
Senator Sampson,
Sampson is yes.
Representative Weir,
Yes.
Representative Hall, Representative Hughes, Senator Lesser, Representative Canino,
Yes.
Representative Gauthier,
Yes.
Representative Master Francesco, Representative Shake. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Item number 3 on the agenda, an act concerning transportation network companies and third-party delivery companies. Is there a motion?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions? Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Just curious what this proposal is going to look like. I know we've had a number of similarly titled bills in recent years. I'm really just trying to get a sense from you whether this is going to look more like last year's bill, which was somewhat more limited to providing receipts and so forth, or it's going to be the more expansive bill that had, minimum pay standards and penalties and that sort of thing.
To date, we're still in discussions about that, but I suspect it'll look more like last year's bill. There may be some additional concepts that are brought into it.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I'd be curious to know what those additional concepts might be, if you're willing to share. Let me just say that, my vote today kind of hinges on what this bill will look like. I don't believe there was a whole lot of opposition to what was attempted last year outside of some of the requirements that were included, including the provision that said that the transportation network company had to provide, detailed information about the compensation to the driver as part of the receipt process, which to me is absurd. I mean, we don't do that in other industries. Your restaurant receipt doesn't, show exactly, how much the chicken breast cost, the restaurant. I mean, it seems excessive and really not the, the business or concern of the consumer. So I'm just curious if that provision would remain as part of the more streamlined bill, and if you can share any additional aspects of this related policy that you might include, I'd be curious.
Thank you. We are still working on it and don't have any specifics about additional policies, but in terms of the transparency, I think what makes this business operate a little differently than other employers is, and the reason for the transparency is because the setup is different. So I don't know that we're looking for the specificity as to the analogy that you made about how much the chicken costs for the restaurant owner. But I do think that there has to be a way to get at, what is really being charged for a ride and what is being received by the driver. Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Yeah, no, and respectfully, I think that's where we disagree. I don't know that the consumer has the right to know all of the details behind what they're being charged for a product or service. That's what we have a market-based economy for. Once you start getting into that stuff, then the next step is to determine what's fair, and who gets to decide that. And my opinion is it's not this committee or government at all. I'm going to vote no today. And I guess the reason why I would vote no is because it's extremely frustrating to vote on concepts anyway. I mean, I'm having to, vote on a title and comments from the folks that are drafting the bill suggesting that they don't know what's in it either. I mean, it's silly that we're even asked to vote on things that are not concrete and could turn into any number of things. So I'll be a no today. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Representative Weir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to appreciate you giving the background on what we might expect this to look like. In previous years, including last year, and again, going from my recollection, can you clarify, it was the drivers or the drivers' representatives, advocates, they're the ones who were asking for this information, not the rider or the consumer. Can you confirm?
That is correct.
Okay, so the consumers weren't, the people who were taking the rides are not asking for any more transparency on their bill. It was the drivers who were looking to see what the rideshare companies were charging the consumer. So then the drivers could determine whether or not they're being paid appropriately, fairly as a percentage of what the intake was. And I know that my colleagues and I took issue with that because, from my perspective, what difference does it make to the driver what the rideshare company is charging, earning, profiting? The driver should be concerned, are they being paid and compensated accurately, fairly for them, regardless of what the company takes in? It was also brought to my attention that the information that the drivers were requesting was, for the most part, already available to them. And I think there was going to be a meeting between the driver advocates and the rideshare companies to confirm that information was already available. So I look forward to discussing this further. And I think the last piece that I'll leave here is that the reciprocity piece, where we have drivers from Connecticut who can bring a rider to New York, but can't bring somebody back here from New York. And that thus, certainly that it almost makes it not worth it for a driver in Connecticut to run down to JFK or LaGuardia with a passenger if they can't bring somebody back. So one of the things that this committee looked to do was to influence or encourage the reciprocity piece of this, which if that were the only piece of this bill, I think it'd be unanimous, because I think we all want to see those drivers get the most for those miles, make the most for their time and their effort. So I'm probably a no if we're going to focus on the first piece of this, because I don't think the drivers have any business with that information beyond what's already available. It's either worth it or it isn't, regardless of what the rideshare company's charging. But I am definitely interested in trying to see how we can push this reciprocity piece forward. Thank you.
Thank you. With regard to some of the issues that you raised, I look forward to a public hearing where we will hear from drivers. I do know that as to the issue of why is it important for a driver to know what percentage of the fare that they're receiving, when these companies first started out, there was no tipping involved. And I remember that from when I used to take ride shares, and realized that the reason there was no tipping involved is because drivers were guaranteed a percentage of the fare, which seemed like a system that might work for folks. That has certainly changed over the years. And I think that's where the percentage of the fare why that has been such an issue. Some of the drivers in Connecticut that have testified before have been working for these companies for a long period of time, even since some of them launched here in Connecticut. And I think that may contribute to it. But I do hope that in the public hearing that we have on this issue, we'll hear more about that. Any other comments or questions? Yes, Representative Canino.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I guess to kind of echo the concerns of my colleagues, the transparency that is required is already there. When an Uber driver or one of these rideshare drivers goes to take a ride, the fare pops up on their screen showing them exactly how much they will make off of that, and they can choose whether to take that ride or whether not to take that ride based upon whether it makes sense to them. But this, in the name of this item right here, seems to, in the name of transparency, it seems to be trying to stoke the envy of these drivers in this case by trying to get more of the pie when that again is a consensual agreement between the employer and the employee in this case as to what they get paid for that individual ride. The additional on top that goes to the parent company does not seem to be necessary for us to mandate that is communicated to that driver. So I will also be a no today, but look forward to the public hearing and further discussion on this.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, I would ask the clerk to call the roll.
A roll call vote has been requested and a motion duly made and seconded on agenda item 3, an act concerning transportation network companies and third-party delivery companies. This is a motion to raise this as a concept. Senator Kushner,
Yes.
Representative Sanchez, Senator Cabrera, Representative Wilson,
Yes.
Senator Sampson,
Sampson is no.
Representative Weir,
No.
Representative Hall, Representative Hughes.
Yes.
Senator Lesser, Representative Canino,
No.
Representative Gauthier,
Yes.
Representative Mastro Francesco,
Representative Mastro Francesco votes no.
Representative Shake.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 4, an act concerning just cause and binding arbitration for teachers. Is there a motion?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any comments or questions? Senator Sampson.
And thank you very much, Madam Chairman. This is an interesting topic. I don't know off the top of my head whether or not there's already any right to arbitration for a discharge for teachers or anyone else. Maybe you can just enlighten me. I'm just curious to know if this is a major change or this is something that exists in other arenas, or it exists for tenured teachers but not tenured teachers, something like that. Maybe you can just fill me in a little.
My understanding that just cause and binding arbitration does not exist in statute for teachers.
Do you know if it exists for any other
I believe
profession?
I do believe it exists through collective bargaining and other bargaining units, non-certified employees.
Understood. So that's a very enlightening answer. So what you just said really made a light bulb go off for me. So it's included based on collective bargaining. So it's been negotiated as part of the contract between other union employees and whoever they're negotiating with. And why wouldn't that be the case for teachers?
I think that will be a great question for the public hearing.
Am I right that effectively what we're attempting to do here is go around the collective bargaining process just to give an advantage to teachers in statute?
I wouldn't characterize it that way. That's your characterization. But thank
I
you.
don't think it's a matter of characterization. I think it's a matter of facts. Actually, if you're going to take and put something in statute that gives one side of a negotiation an advantage, that's all I'm stating. And for those reasons, I'll be a no. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, then I would ask the clerk to call the roll.
A roll call vote has been requested and a motion duly made and seconded on agenda item 4, an act concerning just cause and binding arbitration for teachers. This is a motion to raise this as a concept. Senator Kushner,
Yes.
Representative Sanchez, Senator Cabrera, Representative Wilson,
Yes.
Senator Sampson,
Sampson is no.
Representative Weir, Representative Weir,
Excuse me. No.
Representative Hall, Representative Hughes.
Yes.
Senator Lesser, Representative Canino,
No.
Representative Gauthier,
Yes.
Representative Mastro Francesco,
No.
Representative Shake.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Moving to item number 5 on the agenda, an act concerning working conditions. Is there a motion?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. This is a bill that will provide an opportunity to put forward concepts regarding working conditions. Are there any comments or questions? Representative Weir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And if I recall from the screening the other day, this was, and again, my notes, that this was similar to the warehouse bill that has come out of the Senate. Is this kind of a similar concept to the warehouse bill, Madam Chair?
I don't believe that it's relates to the warehouse bill. This is similar to a bill that we had last year that is often referred to as a placeholder bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'm not a big fan of placeholder or dummy bills just because we're here to vote on concepts, and having some background is helpful for me. So without dragging this, what type of working conditions then, if the title is an act concerning working conditions, what type of working conditions are we looking to review or hear testimony about?
I believe that that is a very broad term, and I think lots of things would fall under it.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I'll just add my additional concern about voting for placeholder or dummy bills. Effectively, what we're being asked is to just trust the majority that what they put in that bill down the road is going to be something that is a laudable policy. I don't agree with the whole notion that we should be pushing empty shells of bills through the process so that they can be filled in later. And one of the great frustrations I have serving in the legislature over the years is just how often I make it to the floor of the Senate to have someone from the majority stand up and introduce a bill on the floor and then immediately turn around and say, and I have a strike all amendment, Madam President, effectively erasing everything that was in the bill before to replace it with new content. And, this is much the same practice. And in fact, it's the beginning of that practice. Our job here in this committee is to flesh out policy, to go through an actual discussion and debate to make legislation the best it can possibly be before it actually goes to the next step to the House or Senate for final action. And I feel like, starting at this point, it's just, I don't know. It doesn't strike me as the best course of action. Am I correct, Madam Chairman, that the next several bills, 5, 6, 7, and 8 are all dummy bills?
That is correct. They are all placeholder bills.
Yeah, all right. Thank you. Yeah, for that reason, I'll be voting no on each of them. I do want to just also make the usual caveat, since we haven't said it so far, but that is that, when voting on concepts, I've already voted on a few of them and affirmatively. I just want to make it clear that I'm only voting for the ability of that process to move forward, for something to be drafted into language, for us to have a public hearing on it. A yes vote on a concept in no way should indicate that someone's going to vote yes on the final product of the bill. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I will ask the clerk to call the roll.
A roll call vote has been requested and a motion duly made and seconded on agenda item 5, an act concerning working conditions. This is a motion to raise this as a concept. Senator Kushner,
Yes.
Representative Sanchez, Senator Cabrera, Representative Wilson,
Yes.
Senator Sampson,
Sampson is no.
Representative Weir,
No.
Representative Hall, Representative Hughes,
Yes.
Senator Lesser, Representative Canino,
No.
Representative Gauthier,
Yes.
Representative Mastro Francesco,
No.
Representative Shake.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Moving to item number 6 on the agenda, an act concerning workers' compensation. Is there a motion?
Seconded.
It's been moved and seconded. We had an earlier discussion on the previous item. Is there any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
A roll call vote has been requested and a motion duly made and seconded on agenda item 6, an act concerning workers' compensation. This is a motion to raise this as a concept. Senator Kushner,
Yes.
Representative Sanchez, Senator Cabrera, Representative Wilson,
Yes.
Senator Sampson,
Sampson is no.
Representative Weir,
No. No.
Representative Hall, Representative Hughes.
Yes.
Senator Lesser, Representative Canino,
No.
Representative Gothier,
Yes.
Representative Mastro Francesco,
No.
Representative Shake.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Item number 7 on the agenda, an act concerning workers' rights. Is there a motion?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any comments or questions? We are on 7, workers' rights. Senator Sampson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just want to interject briefly on this one. I know that we're in the midst of the dummy bills, quote unquote. But this one is entitled an act concerning workers' rights. Can you tell me, I know that LCO drafts the titles for bills, but who drafts the titles for these concepts?
These concepts are put in this case by the chairs, and we've suggested the title. LCO will decide whether or not that's appropriate title.
Yeah, I just want to express my dissatisfaction once again with titles that, are written in a way that make it difficult to vote one way or the other. I don't want to vote on this because it's a dummy bill, and yet I'll be asked to vote against workers' rights once again. And I just, it concerns me when that happens. We should be much more careful about framing bill titles so that they reflect objectively what the bill accomplishes. And this should be a bill title that says an act about nothing, because that's exactly what you got here. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I will ask the clerk to call the roll.
A roll call vote has been requested and a motion duly made and seconded on agenda item 7, an act concerning workers' rights. This is a motion to raise this as a concept. Senator Kushner,
Yes.
Representative Sanchez, Senator Cabrera, Representative Wilson,
Yes.
Senator Sampson,
Sampson is no.
Representative Weir,
No.
Representative Hall, Representative Hughes.
Yes.
Senator Lesser, Representative Canino,
No.
Representative Gothier,
Yes.
Representative Mastro Francesco,
No.
Representative Shake.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Moving to item number 8 on the agenda, an act concerning the Labor Department. Is there a motion?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any comments or questions? Seeing none, then I will ask the clerk to call the roll.
A roll call vote has been requested and a motion duly made and seconded on agenda item 8, an act concerning the Labor Department. This is a motion to raise this as a concept. Senator Kushner,
Yes.
Representative Sanchez, Senator Cabrera, Representative Wilson,
Yes.
Senator Sampson,
Sampson is no.
Representative Weir,
No.
Representative Hall, Representative Hughes.
Yes.
Senator Lesser, Representative Canino,
No.
Representative Gothier,
Yes.
Representative Mastro Francesco,
No.
Representative Shake.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And I would ask for us to take a brief pause. Thank you. Okay, back on the record. Item number 9, an act allowing the comptroller to enforce wage statutes. Is there a motion?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any comments or questions? Senator Sampson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Can you just fill me in a little bit more? Where does this bill come from and what's the purpose of it?
This is a bill that was suggested by the comptroller, and as you probably are aware, that we have had many instances in the construction industry on public works projects of employers not paying the proper wage, whether that's prevailing wage or not paying into workers' comp or paying proper taxes. And the Department of Labor, under our current statutes, is empowered to investigate and issue stop work orders. This would put a little more teeth in it, in that the Department of Labor, the commissioner, could recommend to the comptroller that he take further action by stopping payment on those projects, public works projects, where the contractor has been found to be in violation.
All right, thank you for that answer. So this bill would be limited simply to the comptroller taking instruction effectively from the labor commissioner to stop payment? Or are we empowering the comptroller to do their own investigation and make determinations and really effectively enforce labor policy?
I believe when we see the full draft of this bill, it will come from the Department of Labor to the comptroller's office. The comptroller still has discretion as to whether or not the comptroller would stop payment. But the original request would come from the Department of Labor.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So how does it work now, just out of curiosity? So if this same exact situation occurred and the labor commissioner became aware of an issue regarding, prevailing wage or some other concern, is that what happens? Don't they call the comptroller and say, don't issue payment?
That does not happen now.
Can you tell me what would happen in a circumstance like that?
There would be a stop work order, and the contractor would be ordered to stop work, and whether or not they complied, it would not result in a payment being stopped. And that's as much as I know for today, but I'm sure during the public hearing, we'll get a lot more information. You'll have all your questions answered.
Understand, Madam Chairman. And I do have many, many questions. I'm a little concerned about further empowering the comptroller, to venture into different areas of state government. I don't believe that's necessary. We already have a Department of Labor. We have a labor commissioner. We have a tremendous amount of staff over there that are knowledgeable about these matters. I'm also very concerned about the detrimental effect on the various contractors that may be involved, who are in perfect compliance and just through a difference of opinion or disagreement, may be penalized for that. I think we already have mechanisms in place, and I'm very hesitant to make changes in this area without hearing something really truly compelling that says, A, we have a problem that needs to be addressed, and B, that somehow the comptroller is the answer to that problem. I just don't see it. But thank you for the information.
And thank you for your concern. I do know that, all of these public works projects are being paid for by taxpayers. This is taxpayer dollars that are being spent. And I know from the past history and the conversations we've had with the Department of Labor, they make every effort to bring a contractor into compliance with lots of notice and with lots of conversations back and forth. And this is not a step that would be taken quickly or easily by the Department of Labor. I think we've seen really good efforts by the Department of Labor with limited resources to make sure that the state of Connecticut, neither the workers nor the system, is being cheated. And that's really important. And so I'm anxious to hear this bill, because I think that this is about putting another tool into the toolbox of enforcement. And it is not about investigating by the comptroller. That would still be the purview of the Department of Labor.
All right. I appreciate that information, and I certainly share your concern about taxpayer dollars, which is one of the main disagreements we have in this committee about how many taxpayer dollars are being used to fund these public works projects via prevailing wage and that sort of thing. So, certainly I'm concerned about protecting consumers and taxpayers in the state of Connecticut. And your comments somewhat illustrate my point that we already have an excellent Department of Labor that is already engaging in all of this activity. Again, without a bill that is concrete, that tells me all the details, it's very hard to make a commitment one way or the other. I'd be in favor of a simplified system that, if necessary, allowed the comptroller to be the final, valve or the on-off switch for whether or not someone gets paid. But I'm very reticent about giving the comptroller additional responsibilities or authority in that area. I'm going to be a no today, but obviously it's likely to pass out of the committee today, and I'll look forward to the hearing. I will leave an opportunity to change my opinion going forward. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any other questions or comments? Representative Weir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to point out a couple of things. I know that the title here is light on detail. I do appreciate you giving a little background. But I did listen to the news conference yesterday that was held with the comptroller and also some news articles that kind of summarized that. And I was left with the impression coming out of there, it was inferred that the Department of Labor is overtaxed and doesn't have the resources to investigate these items as they would. And I believe in listening to that art. I came away with the impression that this is going to give additional authority of an investigation, that the DOL is going to turn over the investigation to the comptroller, thus giving the comptroller's office more authority, which I also share that concern. Furthermore, we have another bill coming before this committee talking about giving the Department of Labor more resources by hiring more wage and hour inspectors. So I guess I'm not torn. I have concern over this, but where this is coming from, are we going to bring forth more resources for the Department of Labor, or are we going to give the comptroller authority to kind of play and dabble in the Department of Labor, their arena, or are we going to do both? Which just seems like we're, duplication of resources and efforts. I'm really not sure where this is going. A little confused why we need this if we're already in the process and working towards giving more resources to the Department of Labor. So I'm going to be a no today. Looking forward to public hearing, further discussion, and hopefully lots of healthy debate to determine how we can make our projects and most effective and efficient, and make our taxpayer dollars go as far as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to be clear that the bill that we have discussed has given no authority to the comptroller's office to investigate. I do agree with you that we need more resources in the Department of Labor, and that's why we had a bipartisan vote on a bill that will come forward and will go to public hearing on providing more resources for wage investigators in the Department of Labor. My comments about the Department of Labor earlier is that they've done a great job with limited resources, but there's no question that my view, that the idea that we both provide more resources to the Department of Labor as well as provide another mechanism to ensure that anyone who is in the contracting business understands their obligations under the law to pay properly and to pay taxes properly. And I think that hopefully we can come to some agreement on that. So I do look forward to that public hearing. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, then I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
A roll call vote has been requested and a motion duly made and seconded on agenda item 9, an act allowing the comptroller to enforce wage statutes. This is a motion to raise this as a concept. Senator Kushner.
Yes.
Representative Sanchez, Senator Cabrera,
Senator Cabrera, yes.
Representative Wilson,
Yes.
Senator Sampson,
Sampson is no.
Representative Weir,
No.
Representative Hall, Representative Hughes,
Yes.
Senator Lesser, Representative Canino,
No.
Representative Gauthier,
Yes.
Representative Mastro Francesco,
No.
Representative Shake.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 4 on the agenda. And underneath item number 4 is item number 10, proposed Senate Bill number 829, an act concerning pre and post shift hours. Is there a motion?
So second?
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any comments or questions? Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I feel silly doing this yet again, but can you tell me if this bill looks like the bill that we had last year with a similar title?
That is, and I apologize. I could have said that up front and saved you the need to ask. I apologize for that. It is probably the exact same bill as last year, which we did pass out of the Senate. It did not make it to the House floor for a vote.
Well, thank you very much for that, Madam Chairman. Just for the edification of the people in the room and watching, this was a bill that I think that Senator Looney had put in that was about requiring someone's hours worked to reflect, time that they have to wait through a screening or something like that on the job. And if I remember correctly, all the testimony was that this is already covered and it's already the law, which was the reason why I had no problem supporting it. And if that's the case, I will support it again today, and hopefully I don't have any ugly surprises later. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, then I will ask for a roll call vote.
A roll call vote has been requested and a motion duly made and seconded on agenda item 10, proposed Senate Bill 829, an act concerning pre and post shift hours. This is a motion to draft this. Senator Kushner,
Yes.
Representative Sanchez, Senator Cabrera,
Yes.
Representative Wilson,
Yes.
Senator Sampson,
Sampson is yes.
Representative Weir,
Yes.
Representative Hall, Representative Hughes.
Yes.
Senator Lesser, Representative Canino,
Yes.
Representative Gothier,
Yes.
Representative Mastro Francesco,
Yes.
Representative Shake.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 11, proposed Senate Bill number 830, an act establishing safety standards to prevent heat-related illness in workplaces. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any? This is a bill, just before you ask, I apologize. This is a bill that would, that we would take up that would require that we establish regulations in the state of Connecticut for workplaces, both inside and outside the workplace, for heat-related regulations that would provide, would prevent workplace injuries. Any comments or questions?
Thank you very much for that introductory commentary, Madam Chairman. This is a new one, I'm gathering. I don't recall seeing this item in the past. Am I to understand that there are not already standards for workplaces to prevent employee exposure to the risk of heat illness?
That is the case.
Is there a specific incident or series of complaints or anything that gave rise to this proposal?
I received this proposal from Senator Looney, and I do believe that his office has been investigating this issue, and that will, in the drafting of this, will take into consideration what's been done in other states, and look forward to making sure that we're taking care of people here in Connecticut. I do know from my own experience that we have had this issue of heat raised around public schools, and we've had a working group on that issue. And I know that there are recommendations at a federal level of standards, but there's no federal OSHA requirement on indoor air in particular. So I think that this will be a great public hearing, and we'll have an opportunity to really see if on the state level we can do something to address the issue.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that information. Madam Chairman, all of that sounds remarkably reasonable, particularly for the Labor Committee. And as a result, I will support this today, and look forward to some testimony. Hopefully there is a substantiated reason for this. And if so, obviously, we should put some standards in place to make sure that we're protecting employees that might work in dangerous environments. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Representative Weir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Very briefly here, seeing this title, I think I brought up my concern the other day that, I'm not sure how the state of Connecticut mandating certain standards for, and you mentioned air quality, but I think we were talking to what the title says was heat, or the description was heat illness, including but not limited to periods of rest and access to water. And as a guy who's done a fair amount of contracting in my life, I know that there are plenty of guidelines and best practices put forward by OSHA and CON-OSHA rather than a standard, because, it's not always a one size fits all solution. But I am interested to learn a little bit more about this. Today I'll be an affirmative to learn more, provided that we're not conflicting or kind of superseding industry known best practices for people who are out roofing per se, working in a ditch, working, paving those on the hottest days of the year. surrounded by hot things. So that's when heat illness comes into effect. I want to make sure we're not overstepping here, but I'll be a yes today to further this along.
Thank you, Representative Weir. And just to clarify the record, the only time I mentioned indoor air quality was in the title of the working group that I've been participating in. So I was referencing the working group on indoor air quality in public schools. And in the context of that working group, we discussed heat-related illnesses, just for clarification. Any other comments or questions? Yes, Representative Master Francesco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In this bill, there is a proposed bill, and
Yes.
obviously it's not a committee bill, it's not drafted. Kind of gives an overview of what it is. Are there companies out there that are not providing water? I don't understand the water part of it, that they have to have access to water.
I believe that we'll find out during the public hearing whether that is currently happening. But if in fact every company is providing water now, then it shouldn't be a burden to put that into statute, so that if in fact some company in the future didn't understand that that's their obligation, it would be clear in law.
Is it currently an obligation now that they provide water?
I don't believe so.
That they don't. So I'm assuming that when this bill is drafted, I don't know, it would be a blanket for every employer, correct?
That is
They-
my understanding,
they
that
would
we'd be
provide
setting a
water.
standard.
Thank you. Thank you.
Of course. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, then I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
A roll call vote has been requested and a motion duly made and seconded on agenda item 11, proposed Senate Bill 830, an act establishing safety standards to prevent heat-related illness in workplaces. This is a motion to draft this. Senator Kushner,
Yes.
Representative Sanchez, Senator Cabrera,
Yes.
Representative Wilson,
Yes.
Senator Sampson,
Sampson is yes.
Representative Weir,
Yes.
Mhm.
Representative Hall, Representative Hughes.
Yes.
Senator Lesser, Representative Canino,
Yes.
Representative Gothier,
Yes.
Representative Master Francesco,
Yes.
Representative Shake.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 12, proposed Senate Bill number 831, an act concerning advanced notice of an employee's work schedule to certain employees. Is there a motion?
Second.
So this is a bill very much like bills that we've had in the past. I think we've had on our agenda with different titles over the years, similar, the same bill. And there's been different versions of it, but I would anticipate that there would be nothing new or surprising in the bill as drafted. Any comments or questions?
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Yeah, so this bill is the bill that would require employers to provide notice to their employees in advance of their working hours. And it's kind of been bounced around mainly because I think the objections that some of us have are legitimate objections. And I think the bill has a tough path ahead of it unless those things are taken out. Can you, I mean, just as an example, I mean, we always bring up, contractors working outside or, businesses that rely on maybe there's an event in the coming to town or maybe a caterer being responsible, based on an event, something like that, where it's maybe very difficult to predict or the circumstances may change. And this bill would pose a real significant problem for everyone involved, because we just can't predict the future. And some things are just natural. People that are in the roofing business, they generally don't work on rainy days, and they don't know what they are 2 weeks in advance sometimes. So is it your understanding that those same what I consider to be unrealistic requirements are going to remain in the bill, or is this going to be scaled back to something that is I would classify as reasonable, but I mean no disrespect?
Just to be clear, I don't believe previous iterations of this bill have included the construction trades. It has been limited to certain industries. And I do know that, clearly, I think you're correct in in suggesting that some of the difficulties we've had in this is to determine and to have agreement on what level of risk should be assumed by the employer instead of all the risk being on the employee when there are weather conditions, for instance, the situation you raised. So I think, the requirements of the bill in the past, we have a disagreement. I felt like they were acceptable in terms of the way an employee who depends on that weekly salary to pay rent and to pay childcare and to pay for groceries. I think that the requirements of that bill would have been appropriate, but we will have plenty of time to hear the testimony and then debate the issue before we JF the bill.
Thank you for that information, Madam Chairman. So I get that the answer is no, you're not going to back off some of these requirements. And I'll just use landscapers versus contracting trades as an example that might run into the same kind of situation. And I seem to remember they were covered last time around. Your comments are very telling about, where we are going to disagree on this subject. We have voluntary employment in this state. There's no one being forced to have a job working in any of these industries, and putting all the risk on the employer. It doesn't translate to that in the real world. The fact of the matter is, if you had to put policy like this in place, the employer is going to end up having to charge so much more substantially for their product or service that it will be prohibitive to consumers, and there'll be less industry and less employees. So who's facing what risk? I've always been, in favor of, our American system, which is based in freedom, which allows people on both sides of that contractual employment agreement to determine whether or not they want to participate on their own. It is not the duty of the state government to jump in there and decide what's best for other people. That's why they have the freedom to decide that themselves. I'll leave it right there, but that's the basis of our disagreement. There's just no way I can see coming around to support this particular policy, because fundamentally, I don't believe the state of Connecticut has a compelling interest in getting involved in the first place. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Canino.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just to provide a personal story to elucidate my concerns with this bill, I worked for Torrington Country Club for 7 years growing up in the hospitality industry, cleaning golf clubs up in, it's actually in Goshen, it's not in Torrington. And I knew that, I'm taking this job to clean clubs to get a wage and tips for my services, but also I work in a business where it might rain sometimes. And if it rained, I didn't get to go to work that day. I didn't get paid. But I took that job fully knowing that. I took that job because I got some really nice tips. I really saw, a benefit to being employed there. I liked my job, but I also understood the concerns and in a very rational and, concerted way. So I think that the idea of responsibility seems to be lost in this proposal. I have significant concerns with it, and I don't think I can support it today. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
A roll call vote has been requested and a motion duly made and seconded on agenda item 12, proposed Senate Bill 831, an act concerning advance notice of an employee's work schedule to certain employees. This is a motion to draft this bill. Senator Kushner,
Yes.
Representative Sanchez, Senator Cabrera,
Yes.
Representative Wilson,
Yes.
Senator Sampson,
Sampson is no.
Representative Weir,
No.
Representative Hall, Representative Hughes.
Yes.
Senator Lesser, Representative Canino,
No.
Representative Gauthier.
Yes.
Representative Mastro Francesco, Representative Shake.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, item number 13, proposed Senate Bill number 1027, an act removing the requirement that the state oppose applications by federally recognized Indian tribes to convert any parcel of fee interest land to federal trust status. Is there a motion? It's been moved and seconded. This is a bill that would remove from current statute the requirement that the AG oppose applications for our tribes to convert a piece of land that they own from fee interest land to federal trust status. Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. So I understand this comes to us from Senator Austin. Did she give you any more information about what this is about? Because just reading the title, it sounds like somebody in the past, put this into law for a reason. And I'm just curious why we would, make such a change.
My understanding is that this was a statute that was passed in the 1990s. And there, if you read the entire statute, there are sections that relate to employee rights codes that a tribe would be required to have. The way the bill was drafted at the time and passed into law didn't actually connect the dots that the employee rights code would be required otherwise, or that the AG would be required to oppose in the event that there was no employee rights code by that tribe. It wasn't written in that way, and the way it has been drafted currently says that every application for a change in the status of a parcel of land must be opposed by the AG. So in some ways, this is an effort to clarify, I think, what was probably not written correctly in the 1990s.
Okay, thank you very much for that information. I got to be honest, I don't know anything about this particular statute. It's never come up in my past. So I'm looking forward to learning more about it. Obviously, I do that with some trepidation, but since it's Senator Austin's bill, I figure I'll do a good turn her way and support this today, and maybe she'll actually let some of my bills show up in the Appropriations Committee. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Any other comments or questions? Representative Weir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Do we know, it says that it will remove the requirement of the Attorney General to oppose an application. Will the Attorney General still be able to oppose an application on his own if he takes issue? Will he still have the ability to oppose this or the authority to do so?
I believe that is the intention.
Okay, and thank you, you know what, I'll hold my comments till we learn more about this and start forming my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, then I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
A roll call vote has been requested and a motion duly made and seconded on agenda item 13, proposed Senate Bill 1027, an act removing the requirement that the state oppose applications by federally recognized Indian tribes to convert any parcel of fee interest land to federal trust status. This is a motion to draft. Senator Kushner.
Yes.
Representative Sanchez, Senator Cabrera,
Yes.
Representative Wilson,
Yes.
Senator Sampson,
Sampson is yes.
Representative Weir,
Yes.
Representative Hall, Representative Hughes.
Yes.
Senator Lesser, Representative Canino,
Yes.
Representative Gauthier,
Yes.
Representative Mastro Francesco, Representative Shake. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 14, proposed Senate Bill number 1037, an act increasing the per diem rate for members of the State Board of Labor Relations. Is there a motion?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. This is pretty plain English. And I believe in the bill proposal, there is a specific dollar amount proposed to increase the per diem rate of members of the State Board of Labor Relations. Any comments or questions? Representative Weir.
Madam Chair, thank you. Does this have to go through appropriations if it comes out of this committee?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I would ask the clerk to call the roll.
A roll call vote has been requested and a motion duly made and seconded on agenda item 14, proposed Senate Bill 1037, an act increasing the per diem rate for members of the State Board of Labor Relations. This is a motion to draft. Senator Kushner,
Yes.
Representative Sanchez, Senator Cabrera,
Yes.
Representative Wilson,
Yes.
Senator Sampson, Senator Sampson,
Sampson is yes.
Representative Weir,
Yes.
Representative Hall, Representative Hughes.
Yes.
Senator Lesser, Representative Canino,
Yes.
Representative Gauthier,
Yes.
Representative Mastro Francesco, Representative Shake. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Moving to item number 15 on the agenda, proposed House Bill number 5607, an act concerning the subminimum wage for persons with disabilities. Is there a motion? And by the way, I should have said at the outset, these last two items on the agenda are being proposed to be reserved for a subject matter hearing. Again, item number 15, is there a motion?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. As I mentioned, this will be, we're asking for a subject matter hearing on this to hear from individuals regarding the subminimum wage that is currently in place for persons with disabilities. Any comments or questions? Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Thank you also for mentioning that these are subject matter public hearings, which in my mind is an even worse idea than voting on concepts. I mean, the whole notion of a subject matter public hearing is that there's not going to be any real substantive language for the public to comment on. So, I mean, how do people make a real decision about, what a bill should look like or what policy we should have? I mean, it could be a three-ring circus of different ideas, which I'm not opposed to, but the fact of the matter is that the bill will be drafted after that. And there will be no subsequent public hearing for people to comment on what we come up with. And that's the problem, that we will be missing out on the ability for public input on the actual language that would be moving forward to potentially become law. With regard to this proposal, House 5607, which would eliminate the sub-minimum wage for persons with disabilities, it's a terrible idea. I just live in the real world is all I would suggest to whoever's trying to push this particular proposal. First and foremost, the legislature does not have the ability to set wages. I know that there are folks that believe that we're establishing a minimum wage and so forth. All that is happening is we are eliminating jobs below a certain threshold. That's it. And while some people may have a raise because the minimum wage increases, it's not because the state gave them a raise. It's because the employer has modified the conditions so that they could accommodate the state's requirement. And often that's done at the expense of other employees. We go from having 5 employees to have 4 employees so that you could distribute that 5th person's responsibilities on the other 4 people and therefore pay them more, even though that is not in the best interest of the company, the employee, or the consumer. And that's the danger of government involving themselves in things like this. This one is especially bad because we have established a sub-minimum wage for persons with disabilities so that they have an opportunity to work, so that there's actually jobs for them that they can engage in and have some, fulfillment from. This is just going to eliminate those jobs. As soon as you put a requirement that the employers that are offering these sub-minimum wage jobs to people with disabilities, they're going to go away. That's what's going to happen. And I'm very much opposed to that. We have to stop sticking our nose in where it doesn't belong and making decisions for other people that are actually in the best interest of our community. Freedom is always in the best interest of people, in my mind. The freedom to determine, what wages are is determined by both the employer and the employee. Listening to this committee, you might get the sense that the employers control every lever of power in the world. They don't. The mere fact that they need employees and have to compete for them is what dictates what wages are. I'll just leave it for there now, but I'm very, very concerned about this going forward because I do think it will have even the existence of the bill creates a chilling effect on this activity, and I think that's dangerous. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or concerns? Representative Weir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I see the intent here, or I see the title anyhow. And can you explain why we have a sub-minimum wage in the first place for people with disabilities, where that background
I was
lies?
not here at the time, but I'm sure we can request a report on that from our OLR folks.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair, because it's interesting to me why it exists now. What was the history on that? Why did we come up with this scenario? And now what is the impetus behind removing it? So I share many of the concerns that my colleague to my left here does. but it looks like we'll have a public hearing so we can hear more about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or concerns? Seeing none, I would ask the clerk to call the roll.
A roll call vote has been requested and a motion duly made and seconded on agenda item 15, proposed House Bill 5607, an act concerning the subminimum wage for persons with disabilities. This motion is to reserve the bill for a subject matter hearing. Senator Kushner,
Yes.
Representative Sanchez, Senator Cabrera, Representative Wilson,
Yes.
Senator Sampson,
Sampson is no.
Representative Weir,
No.
Representative Hall, Representative Hughes.
Yes.
Senator Lesser, Representative Canino,
No.
Representative Gauthier,
Yes.
Representative Mastro Francesco,
No.
Representative Shake.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Moving to item number 16 on the agenda, proposed Senate Bill number 1031, an act establishing a full employment trust fund. Is there a motion? It's been moved and seconded. This is a bill that we've had in the past. After hearing testimony on it, we substituted language and made it a study bill. And it did pass out of this committee, but did not was not brought to a vote in either chamber. Again, we will hear testimony in a subject matter hearing on the issue. Any questions or comments? Senator Sampson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Can you just describe for us what exactly a full employment trust fund would be?
Think
Where does
we-
the money come from? Who has access to it?
I don't believe we've had that level of specificity in the past. And again, I think that would be a great question during the public hearing.
What's the purpose of this proposal? I'm gathering it has something to do with folks that are unemployed and unable to find employment, still being able to earn a wage. Is that correct?
I think it is intended to provide state resources to ensure that there's full employment of the people who live in the state of Connecticut.
When you say state resources, I think we've already covered where money comes from. It comes from taxpayers. But who would be eligible? This is what I'm trying to understand about this thing. I mean, are we trying to provide, it says employment, but if it also says for people that are already unemployed, is the state going to create jobs out of thin air just to make sure that people have employment?
I would encourage you to ask these questions during the public hearing of the proponents of the bill.
All right, thank you, Madam Chairman. I know we've had a bill like this before. I think it was House Bill 5385 from 2024. And I don't remember what its disposition was. I think it made it out of the committee, but I remember voting no. And I think it's because I don't think even at the time I had really satisfactory answers to those items. All right, I'll listen to the rest of the conversation.
Thank you. Any other comments? Representative Weir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In reading the description here, I heard your comments about full employment, which I think is, that's I guess a lofty goal to have everybody employed, but quite frankly, nowhere in the world is there full employment. And I see a couple of words in here that, while I recognize this is a summary, I think underemployed, unemployed, and to help people find suitable employment. I mean, suitable is a extremely subjective word. I think this is an incredible expansion of authority that we shouldn't be granting to anybody. Anybody who wants to work is capable of going out and finding a job. I've done plenty of jobs that were not my final, or I didn't end up. In fact, I've been, had many different careers over my lifetime, and they've all been willful on my part in terms of, I'm not satisfied with one. I'm going to go look for something else. So I'm concerned that the state is injecting itself into this concept. So I'll reserve my comments for the public hearing, but thank you for.
Thank you. Seeing no other hands, I would ask the clerk to call the roll.
A roll call vote has been requested and a motion duly made and seconded on agenda item 16, proposed Senate Bill 1031, an act establishing a full employment trust fund. This motion is to reserve this bill for a subject matter hearing. Senator Kushner,
Yes.
Representative Sanchez, Senator Cabrera, Representative Wilson,
Yes.
Senator Sampson,
Sampson is no.
Representative Weir,
No.
Representative Hall, Representative Hughes.
Yes.
Senator Lesser, Representative Canino,
No.
Representative Gothier,
Yes.
Representative Master Francesco,
No.
Representative Shake.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And we will be holding votes open until 1 p.m. or the start of the Senate session, whichever comes first. And I would encourage folks to get their votes in as soon as possible. The Senate is scheduled to go in at noon, but we don't always gavel in as at the time appointed in the agenda. So in the bulletin. So, but people should watch that carefully and make sure they get their votes in before the Senate goes into session. Thank you very much. And we will, the last item on the agenda is to announce the public hearing date, which is Thursday, February 6th at 10 a.m. in room 2B, and it will be also via Zoom. And with that, I'll entertain a motion for recess. We will be in recess. Thank you. We don't need a motion for that. Thanks so much.
Paul should be joining.
Can you hear me?
Thank you guys for running a tight ship in there. Appreciate it. Thank you, Rep.
Representative Hall, hello.
How you doing? Can
Hang on a second, I can't quite hear you.
you hear me now?
I can hear you now, Representative Hall. We had roll call votes on all items on the agenda today, items 1 through 16. Would you like me to go through them?
I'm yes or no.
Representative Hall, you're cutting in and out a bit.
I am a yes on all agenda items.
Thank you very much, Representative.
Thank you. Take care.
You as well.
Hey, Cameron.
Hello, Senator Cabrera. I need your votes on agenda items 1 through 8, as well as 15 and 16.
Yep, can we put them all together? I'm gonna vote yes on each one of them, individually.
Okay, so an act concerning youth employment and training funds.
Yes, Senator Cabrera votes yes.
Okay. The Labor Department's recommendations for minor revisions to labor statutes.
Senator Cabrera votes yes.
Transportation network companies and third-party delivery companies.
Senator Cabrera votes yes.
Just cause and binding arbitration for teachers.
Senator Cabrera votes yes.
Act concerning working conditions.
Senator Cabrera votes yes.
An act concerning workers' compensation.
Senator Cabrera votes yes.
Act concerning workers' rights.
Senator Cabrera votes yes.
An act concerning the Labor Department.
Senator Cabrera votes yes.
Okay. Let me just skip to the end here. This is proposed bill, House Bill 5607, to be reserved for subject matter hearing. Sub-minimum wage for persons with disabilities.
Senator Cabrera votes yes.
And 1031, reserved for subject matter hearing, act establishing a full employment trust fund.
Senator Cabrera votes yes.
Thank you very much, Senator. That's
Okay,
all.
thanks, Cameron. Bye.
Well, Manny?
Good morning. Afternoon, rather.
Yep. So we had 16 roll call votes today.
Representative Sanchez votes yes on all items.
Thank you very much, Representative.
Thank you. Take care.
You as well.
Hello.
I just need votes on items 11 through 16.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you, Senator.